Last spring, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I'm okay. I had surgery, radiation, and I'm doing just fine. But what I learned along the way is somewhat unsettling, and I'd like to talk about that, and to help me unpack it, I've invited my friend and retired journalist Ann Stevens to help me with this. So, wow, it was quite the shock.
Well, how did this actually come about? Because I know how much you have stuck to pretty healthy living habits.
I do, and I think that's one of the reasons it came as such a shock. Well, it started, I had not had a mammogram in a while, and it occurred to me, you know, pick up the phone and make the appointment. I just always have. It's like doing your taxes and going to the dentist. You don't really want to, but you know you should. And I was surprised when they said, "Oh no, you're 74. You have to have a doctor's referral."
Is that new, Donna?
No, apparently it's not. I just didn't, it never occurred to me. It never, wasn't something that I thought about before. I just thought, well, I didn't realize. And I said, well, why? I've always booked directly through you. And they said, oh, no, not when you're now 74. So I thought, yeah, I was not expecting.
So what did your doctor say when you went to tell him about this?
So months went by, because I had no reason for doing this. And I said, by the way, think I should get a mammogram? He said, sure, I'll make the referral. And to be honest, I think if he had said, well, you don't really need it, I probably wouldn't have put up that much of an argument. But okay, I went, and a few more steps, and they phoned and said, you have breast cancer. Wow.
I would imagine that would be one of the hardest things ever to go through. And how was your experience as you went through all the medical procedures and all the rest?
It was, honestly, I didn't miss a step.
Yeah.
I made a few decisions in the day as I got over the initial shock of this, and I said, it's not going to control me, it's not going to define me. I am not going to become, there's a lot more to me than being a breast cancer survivor. So, in fact, the day after surgery, I was in here doing
your interviews.
Doing my interviews, yeah. I didn't miss a beat, and through the radiation, I never missed a beat. I'm so glad I didn't cancel a bunch of things thinking, oh dear, I'm going to be sick, because I wasn't. I was fine.
Well, I think that's a very good attitude to have about, going through it, because you can't change things that you have no control over, but you can control certain things.
You can control how you react to it, and that's what
yes.
I decided that is the one thing I could still control. But I think what bothers me about it is, well, I met with a surgeon, and I said, I couldn't find a lump. And trust me, I was looking. Could you find a lump? And he said, no. When there's a medical student, as hotel do, you have an audience for everything. And I said, could you find the lump? And she said, no. And I said, well, what would have happened if I had not requested a mammogram? And he said, well, in a few years, you would have noticed that your breast became misshapen. And had that happened, we would be having a much different conversation.
That certainly must have set you back in your chair hearing that.
Oh, did it ever?
And I understand also that this has motivated you to do something to help other people.
Well, the thing is, I was low risk. That was the part that threw me as well. In fact, I think at one point I kind of whined that I'm low risk. And the medical student said, well, actually, you have two major risk factors, your gender and your age. So when he told me what could have happened, I said, what about women who don't have a family doctor?
Absolutely. In this day and age, things can get very out of control very quickly.
Very quickly. Or what about the ones who are too timid to ask for this? And how about the ones who maybe their doctor says, oh, you don't need that? What about them? And they just shrugged. And I said, this is going to change. So,
well, preventing even one case of breast cancer is incredibly important.
You think?
What has happened that age 74 is the cutoff for these kinds of diagnostic tests?
I don't know. I don't know. But it seems to be not just Ontario, but most places seems to be the golden age where it's not a screen. You can get them, it's true, But as for the screening where they send you the notice in the mail and you make the appointment and your GP doesn't even have to get involved.
Exactly, and in this day and age, with so many people not having frontline family doctors,
Exactly.
they're going to really be at a disadvantage in keeping their health.
Well, yeah, exactly. You know, this is Cancer Month, right, April? And they keep pushing early detection and taking control of your own health and all this. But then they don't give us the tools, allow us to take control of our own health and to be proactive. So it baffles me.
I understand, though, that you've taken on a project to raise awareness about this situation. Can you tell us about that?
Oh boy, yeah. So I thought, how do I get this changed? Well, health comes under provincial. So I went to our MPP, Ted Hsu, and the recommendation from his office was that I do a petition that he would present in Ontario legislature.
So
And
did you start the petition?
I sure did, and I got 500 signatures.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Now, what I found out along the way was interesting. Women telling me, oh, you can't get them over age 74. You can't get a mammogram. Others saying they have been turned down by their doctors. The doctor said, we don't do them on women your age. Don't worry about it.
That's quite alarming because currently society, people are living a much longer life.
Well, we are.
And we are, as a whole, a much healthier population.
Exactly.
But this seems counterintuitive.
Well, here's the other thing that's interesting. What I had is called invasive lobular carcinoma. It's growing at 3 times the rate of other breast cancers. It usually affects older women, and there usually is no lump. Because you're always trained, look for a lump, and check yourself, look for a lump. Well, there was no lump.
That is so frightening.
That was frightening.
Yeah,
that was frightening. And I think if anything has kept me awake at night is the thought that I could have so easily have just forgotten about this. They're not sending me the notices, or my doctor, who's a good guy, if he had said, oh, you don't really need it. Look, you have no health, you have no risk factor. I had no family history, none. We dropped dead of a heart attack when we're in our 90s, and that's what I was kind of hoping for. I didn't do hormone replacement therapy during menopause. I don't smoke. I'm not overweight. I walk, I go to a gym. I have a healthy lifestyle. I'm very careful about my diet.
And you know something, I think that's why this is such a profound shock, not only to yourself, but actually for an age demographic that is already feeling kind of pushed aside these days in our world.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
When Ted Hsu, our member of provincial parliament, when he submitted his petition, have you heard what his reactions to that were?
I have not.
You have not?
This is just that part has just happened.
Yes.
And I have not heard what happened as a result of it or where it goes from here. That's something I need to look into. But in the meantime, I'm pretty private about my health status. I've never talked about it, and this is hard. I'll tell you.
I can imagine it would be.
This is hard talking about it like this. But if only, if a few women say, "Oh, wait a minute. What do you mean there's no lump? You mean I could, then I hope they go out and they get a mammogram. I request one.
Currently, how can a woman get a mammogram these days?
You need a referral. So
if you're over age 74.
If you're over, or if you're under age 40.
Okay.
Yeah.
So between the ages of 40 and 73, that's the eligibility criteria.
Yeah. Even
even though people are living longer.
And some cancers, like the one I had, tends to be in older women.
Yeah.
So I've tried to find out why this is, and some of the answers I'm getting, it's like overdiagnosis, overtreatment, and I think, so what? So they tell you, oh, you need to come back for another mammogram, or you need the ultrasound, or whatever, all the steps that you go through. and it turns out they say, well, it was a false positive, you're okay. I don't call that anxiety producing. And to be told that I was stage 1 and the prognosis was excellent, trust me, you have no idea what an exhale I did that day. If instead they had said, too bad we didn't catch it sooner,
yes,
and put your affairs in order, that would have been anxiety producing.
Yes, yes.
And I'm so glad that I dodged that one. But
how did you go about collecting the names for the petition?
oh my goodness. Well, one funny story was it was last October, and it's breast cancer awareness. So I went to a fundraiser, and I'm scooting around from table to table getting signatures on this petition. And one of the organizers said, why don't we hand you a microphone and you can talk to everybody at the same time, and we'll put a petition on every table, then you don't have to go, okay. And they handed me the microphone, and there I was, someone who's very private about these things, suddenly talking to 75 strangers about my boobs. I got to tell you, this was not what I...
The thing is, though, you're very comfortable behind a microphone, and I mean, this may have saved you also a lot of time.
That's right.
Table hopping.
It did.
Yeah,
it did.
yeah,
and I
yeah.
think pretty much everybody did sign the petition that day. But
so where do we go from here, Donna? What happens now?
I think we just have to get long and loud about this. I think that enough women have to start making noises and start talking about it. And hard as it is to talk about, and nobody wants to talk about it, I think we need to talk about it, and especially women over 74. When you're a little bit older, it's, come on, our filters tend to disappear anyway. Talk about it. Talk about it.
Can you tell your listeners and watchers today how they can get a copy of this petition to sign it? Where can they go?
Well, it's already been submitted, so that ship is sailed. However, I think if you start calling Ted Hsu's office, writing letters to the
Minister of Health?
Minister of Health, if everybody starts doing that, maybe this will get their attention. And my email is on the screen, and I just want to ask everybody out there, get a mammogram. And then drop me an email and tell me what happened, or ask for one. And I would love to, well, not to hear somebody sick, but I'd love to hear if something got caught as a result of you doing this. I would, you'd make my day if you...
After talking with you this last year about this, I had a chat with my doctor, and according to doctor is that this is a statistical thing that women are slotted into. Okay. And it seems that it's a Minister of Health decision, not a medical decision, to stop these mammograms at age 74.
Right, right. Well, here's the other thing. You know how much a mammogram costs? Do you know how much that breast imaging is paid to do a mammogram?
No, I don't. Tell us.
$100.
Oh my goodness.
I'm serious. And if it's caught at stage 1, it's around $15,000 to deal with it. If it goes to stage 4
and beyond,
well, there is no beyond stage 4. Then it's $136,000. So doesn't it make economic sense to catch it in stage 1 instead of it going all that?
Very much so.
Yeah, doesn't that make more sense? So, wow, yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming today and helping me unpack this.
Well, I think people need to support each other. And I know you're very grateful to your friends who have supported you through this. Yeah. And now I think it's important for us to spread the word how important this is for people to get a regular mammogram, and also to contact the appropriate authorities to see if this law can be changed.
That's right, absolutely. And send me that email. Thanks, Anne.